Good morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. It wasn't such a cold night. It was misty the whole evening. So yes, I'm gonna jump back into my sleeping bag, wait for the sun to dry everything up, and then get myself organized for the day. See what wonderful fun we can have and see what stuff I can bring you. So it's the start of my third day by the river. I had 2 evenings. Last night wasn't so cold. This morning, however, is pretty cold, but it looks like it's going to be a nice day. So yeah, slowly but surely get the day going and then see where it takes us. Lovely day here by the Gamtoos River. Under the sun canopy, keep the dew away from me. So it's going to be a lovely day. Thought to get the day by pay a visit to some friends that were camping on the side of the river. So off I was to go say hi to them. Beautiful on the Gamtoos. Slow driving, nice and quiet. Only guy on the river. No one else. Heading for today. So ek staan hier so by die Gamtoos rivier en hier loop ek in so 'n klomp lelike fucking ouens in. Dat ek net eers hulle hier in die prentjie kry. Hierso is een slegte visserman.
So I cannot ask you to phone me Friday afternoon.
Hier's 'n tweede slegte visserman.
Yes, please.
Daar's 'n derde slegte visserman. Tide went out on me and Farmer Jack got stuck solid on the mud. Now I had to wait for the tide to first come in again. Hello everyone, being on the river here at the end of day 3. Today I was stuck on the side of the river for the bigger bulk of the day. So tonight I'm going to do a bit of fishing. I'll probably throw most of the fish away as I still got a lot of fish to eat. Funny though, as far as the hunger goes on my survival week, it's weird, on day 3 I haven't really got hungry. I've been drinking liquids, so I'll be fine. So I think the first thing I need to prioritize tomorrow morning is to make a fire, gather some wood and make some food, and play it by ear. So yeah, let me put a little bit of a line in the water and see what the fishing is like. Nice size tiger. Unfortunately, you also have to go back into the drink because food is still more than enough. Look how beautiful it is here where I'm sitting by my favorite spot on the river. I call it the 2 trees. So let's get this oukie back into the water. Little baby grunter, just fishing for the fun. So this one, back in the drink. Yep, so there's a rod there and there's a rod here by my feet and a little lamp there on the boat. It's night, it's not cold yet. So I'm sitting there catching a couple of fish, throwing them all back into the water just to have some fun. Tomorrow we continue with the adventure. Cup of coffee early morning on the boat. Everything is up and running. Trying to get rid of all that cold weather. So let's see what the day brings. But let's start the day correctly. Another hour, we'll have some sun. But what can we do? Let's have a blast. As Farmer Jack really is becoming peaceful on this river and he starts getting his mojo back, I thought I'll show you just a little clip of just how mad Farmer Jack can get on the water. A short clip of having a bit of fun on my own. Traveling down the river. Now it was time to make fire again. Make me some food again. And today I'm gonna try and make fire, or I'm gonna make you a fire on the way the traditional Europeans used to make fire. Now if you see a survival channel where a guy has got a piece of metal, a hardened metal and a flint, and he strikes it for a spark and there his fire goes, that's not really how it works. Historically, the people had a secret weapon, and that I'll show you exactly how they used to make fire in Europe and obviously here in South Africa as well, as we are from European descent. But first, unfortunately, I have to gather dry wood, and then I'll take you through the fire making process as it's been done a couple of hundred of years ago in most of European, most of American, and obviously in South Africa as well. So yes, gathering fine wood, and then time to show you how to make a historic fire. Now, historically, when Europeans or we in South Africa used to make fires, because all the aunties and all the uncles had to be able to make a fire. If you haven't got a fire, can't prepare your food. And what they've done is they've used pieces of cloth. They put it in a little tinderbox, or like we used to call it in South Africa, tonteldoos. And they pack it in there, and I will show you later how they convert these pieces of cloth into proper fire starters. So yes, Here you can see me taking the cloth and packing it into the tinderbox. And then I'll show you later what I do with the tinderbox and how I convert these cloths into proper fire starters by making char cloth. Now you can see on the tinderbox here on the left hand side, there is a little hole in the tinderbox. And that's all you needed to be able to convert any pieces of cloth into char cloth. So stick with me and let's see how the process goes. Now, obviously, in order to convert the cloths in your tinderbox into a lovely fire starter, you always had to have a fire first. So what I've done here, I've just made a quick fire so that I can make my char cloth and show you how I make my char cloth. So I made a little fire and then I'll show you, we're going to forget about that fire and then I'm going to show you how historically we used to make fire in South Africa. So yes, I've got a little fire and then I'll show you how I put the tinderbox in and then let's see how we convert it into proper fire starters. Now, in order to make charcoal, it's a similar process than when we make the char cloth. If you put anything in a container and you have as little as possible oxygen going in there, then whatever is in the container will smolder into charcoal without catching alight, and the gases will just burn off. And this is the process you will see here with the char cloth. So the cloths are in the little tinderbox. It's a little bit of a hole for the gases to escape. We'll see how it burns on top, and as soon as that gases have finished burning, your char cloth should be ready. So let's have a look at it. Now, as soon as the fire goes out on the top little hole of that tinderbox, the char cloth is ready and it can be removed from the fire. And what is inside is that magic fire starters, which I will show you a little bit later. Here you can see the char cloth that has been converted so that it's not the cloth anymore. These cloths have got a very unique feature in it, in that it can catch any form of spark and give you quite a bit of time to start your fire. You will see now. Now, as the people of old used to use a piece of hardened metal and a flint or a very hard rock, which they bumped against one another, and the shavings of the metal comes off, and that spark went onto the char cloth. Here I'm just using a normal, more modern version of generating that spark. Now here I'm going to show you just how effective This char cloth was to catching any form of spark. Doesn't matter how small that spark is. Once it falls on that char cloth, the char cloth starts to smolder, giving you ample time to light any fire. Just see how magic this is. A piece of char cloth like this will give you at least 20 seconds to put it into your smaller, finer wood, blow on it, get your fire going. So a normal spark just won't work unless you had the magic char cloth as a fire starter. Now, obviously, except for having your fine wood to get going on your fire, you obviously have to have even the finest bunch of wood shavings, or this is the way I like to do it, that you can put into your little nest of fine bushes, and then put your char cloth on it, fold it close, blow on it, and the magic will just start happening. So here I'm going to try and show you in real time how I make that fire. Now, what I like to do with the fine pieces of wood which I've gathered, the fine wood, I like to make it into a little nest, like a bird's nest, and then I put a little bit of wooden shavings in there, and then I go on to the char cloth. So here you'll see me just making a little nesting to keep that fine wood which I scraped from any hard piece of wood with a knife. So yeah, let's have a look at it. Yeah, I'm just trying to show putting that fine wood shavings into that nesting. Just closing the lid so that the wind don't blow my fine shavings away. Now, obviously, you will always have to have some fine wood to put onto that nesting of yours. So, just quickly recap. I'm not going to bore you too much for this, But you always need to have a knife and a bit of an axe or something to take your solid wood and turn it into some fine wood. Now, once everything is ready, you need to get that little nesting of yours ready and get that char cloth on it and give it a couple of blows. So let's see how it goes. Okay, so now that we've got our fine wood with the char cloth and we got that going, now it's up to the next stage. Get that little bit more rough wood on and then get the big wood on and give it a couple of blows and make sure it doesn't die, and you should be for okay. Let's have a look at it. Now, one can really never underestimate the importance that fire had on civilizations around the world. Once we have learned to manage fires, a lot of magic things have happened to us as humans. For starters, did you know that our intelligence have shot up significantly as a species since we started making fire? This was simply because before that we had to eat most of our food raw, and most of our meat, our protein specifically, we had to eat raw. Now, eating your food raw has got a couple of disadvantages. You cannot chew it in small enough pieces so that your stomach digests it properly. And that have unfortunately had to the effect that the nutritional value of our food were never what it was supposed to be. Once we started managing fires, the nutritional value of our food have become significantly higher. So obviously, nutrition has a very big part in brain development, and since we could cook our food, we can digest it better. Since we didn't have to eat our food raw anymore, we as humans have actually become much more intelligent because of the fact that we can manage a fire. Did you know, since we started with the use of fires, fire likely played a significant role in shaping human sleep patterns? Fire's ability to provide warmth, illumination, and protection against wild animals allowed early humans to stay awake longer and potentially altered the duration of the timing of our sleep. Some researchers even suggest that it may have led to shorter, more efficient sleep cycles, with a greater proportion of time spent in rapid eye movement or REM sleep. Just another piece of thought. Ever wondered why it's so nice to sit around a fire and why it have such a calming effect on us as humans? Well, it's simple. If you go back thousands of years, at night, if you didn't have a fire, you were in danger of all night animals. But a fire made sure that you are safe. It made sure the animals wouldn't come closer. So still till today, we are nice and comfortable and relaxed around the fire. REM, or rapid eye movement sleep, is associated with vivid dreams and strengthening of procedural memories. which are essential for learning and performing skills. Modern humans spend a larger percentage of their sleep in REM compared to apes and monkeys, possibly due to the benefit of fire related sleep. Okay, enough of that bull. While the fire was going and I'm gonna get ready to prepare my food, I thought it good just to catch up a little bit on some personal hygiene. Very cold though. Remember my salted fish? Well, it was time to desalt 2 pieces of those and get it on a barbecue and see how that tastes. So here we go. Always worth just giving it a taste to see if there's not too much salt on it. At this stage, I think that the fish might be a bit too salty, or it might be very salty. I think the right way would have been to take your fish out the previous evening, wash it off, wash all the salt off, and then lay it for a couple of hours in some fresh water to see how much of that salt you can extract before you actually go put it on a fire. But that's not what I've done. So it'll be cooked the way it is, and I'll tell you what it tastes like. Obviously, I like this little barbecue set. It is so compact and it works so well. All that needed now is put the fish on, get it properly cooked. After a few minutes of turning the fish forward and backwards, I think it was ready to try it out. Right, the moment of truth. After a couple of days in salt, let's see what the fish tastes like. The fish was perfectly edible. The fish was nice. Little bit too salty. Next time I'll know. I'll prepare it a little bit earlier, put it in some fresh water next time. But the fish was just fine. So, yes, I think a great success for day 4. So, it's the end of day 4 on my survival challenge at the Adventures of Farmer Jack. It's been a magnificent day. The weather was magic. The evening is coming. I've had my food. I've been trying to catch a fish. The fishing has been very, very quiet. The fish that I catch, I obviously put back because I still got some meat from day 2, unfortunately. So I need to eat the preserved food. So, yes, it's been a wonderful day. It's been lovely weather. Lovely, lovely, lovely. And funny though, as I'm having enough liquids, because I brought enough water with, the hunger is not battling me. So after day 4, I'm not really getting that hungry. But it's been marvelous. So tomorrow, Saturday, I expect to see a lot more boats on the water. I'm almost ready to wait for darkness to come. Then obviously it'll cool down significantly. Then I'll have to climb in a cab and close everything up, batten down the hatches, like they say, and then keep it going till the next morning. And then check the weather, see what's happening, and yeah, see what happens on day 5. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll bring you day 5 of this Survivor Challenge.